Bob Dreher from Defenders of Wildlife joins me now from Washington. Bob, good to see you. Are you outraged?
Well, I'm saddened and concerned. I mean, I think there are really important issues that are playing out in Alaska. One of them, of course, has to do with the proper philosophy of wildlife management and the recognition of the really important role that predators play in a healthy ecosystem. The other really important issue is the special role that federal lands play for all of the American people, not just for the residents of the state in which they sit. National wildlife refuges, for example, are required by law to manage for the natural diversity of all wildlife, and that includes predators. So what the Fish and Wildlife Service tried to do with a regulation that has now been struck down was to preserve predators against a really extreme form of anti-predator management by the state of Alaska, killing bears with cubs, killing wolves and their pups in their dens, baiting bears with jelly donuts. These are practices which are not normally part of hunting. And this is not about being anti-hunting, because hunting plays a crucial role in wildlife management in this country, and countries have been great supporters of wildlife conservation. But it is about the proper balance in order to maintain the recognition of the role of predators in a healthy ecosystem, and to recognize the special mandate that federal lands, like the National Wildlife Refuges, have for all Americans.
So, Bob, do bear numbers actually have to be controlled in these parts of Alaska? Are there too many of them?
Well, first, let me just say, the state of Alaska has a very different philosophy from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that owns and manages the refuges. They manage wildlife populations primarily for big game hunters, and they act on the belief that killing wolves and bears will lead to larger populations of deer, of caribou, and of elk. There's no evidence that this is true, and the state's own scientists have just admitted that in a major study, saying that there were no proven benefits from predator control. But that's not the philosophy of the wildlife refuge system. That's to manage for a diversity of wildlife. And top predators are an essential part of a healthy ecosystem. So no, I think there's no evidence that you need to control bears for wildlife conservation purposes. The only thing that the state is trying to do is artificially manipulate wildlife populations in their, I think, mistaken belief that it'll promote big game hunting.
In the States, though, is it an issue that it's the state that has the right to decide this, each individual state?
Well, the states play a crucial role in wildlife management in the United States. They are the backdrop for most wildlife, not for endangered species, but they play a coordinate role for federal lands, and ultimately the federal land managers, by law, have the ultimate say in how wildlife populations are managed on federal lands. So what's really playing out here is states versus federal government, and Alaska has long resented the presence of major tracts of federal land in the state, but they are managed for the benefit of all Americans, not just for the state of Alaska.
Bob, good to have your thoughts. Thanks for joining us from Washington. Bob Dreher there from Defenders of Wildlife.